Hello, dear audience. This is Beatriz Contreras. I'm going to serve as the voice for this presentation, The Integration of Medical Big Data in the Smart City, a research by Carlos David Gonzalez Haro and Jaime Francisco Gómez Gómez from the University of Guadalajara. Okay, to start and get us a little more in touch with the subject, I'm going to need your cooperation to do a little exercise. Please raise your hand if you have any sort of electronic device that's connected to the web, anywhere from your smartphone, your smartwatch, your tablet, your laptop, or else. Perfect. Now, take a look around and see how many of you have your hands raised. We are pretty sure that anywhere from the 95 to 99% of the people that raise the hand is providing information to the big data, whether they like it or not. This might not be new, but thinking about it, it's kind of scary, right? So now that we know that whether we like it or not, we're part of it, the next big question is, what is big data? According to Kitchen, it can be conceptualized as a broad, dynamic, varied, interrelated, low-cost, and detailed database. Also, Batty points out that big data is able to process information in real time. It is very important to point out that we generate a broad amount of information on a daily basis, such as pictures that can give information of what did we eat, or whom we were with, or even where we were at. Also information on how much money do we make, how much money do we spend, what do we spend that money on, the time that took us to travel from one place to another, and if we are users of certain services, or even what mood we're on thanks to our Facebook status, our Instagram, Twitter, and so many other apps that we use. Even without knowing, our GPS is part of this information collection system. For big data, any type of information is useful. Just like a little peace of mind, the three main companies that control, gather, and sell the information of the big data are Google, Oracle, and Facebook. As we already said before, the information of big data is so many and it's so broad that Keresy proposed to divide it into three main branches: urban big data, industrial big data, and medical big data. During this presentation, we're only going to focus on medical big data. As defined by Thomas Lefebvre, it's any physical information of the individual, for example, age, complexion, heart rate, exercise habits, medical appointments, and even your medical records. Nowadays, health apps are able to measure a broad spectrum of physical characteristics and habits that we have. They actually sometimes come pre-uploaded in our phones. For example, if you have an Apple phone, please go take a look to an app called Help. You'll see that you do not need a profile, and the app it's already taking into account how many steps do you take in a day. So far, we have been talking about how each of us is capable of providing information for big data. Big data is capable of gathering all this information on different scales, anywhere from individual to a group of people, to an area, to a location, regionally or globally. This wide range of ways to manage the information provides us the possibility to be a step ahead of the events. Let's set one more little example. Let's say a tiny community starts to search in Google the word flu and different ways to treat it. Big data will recognize the search, identify the pattern within the community, and possibly, if programmed, provide an alert. This information will be useful for the health department of that community, giving it the possibility to step ahead and take action before the flu outbreak comes. Now that we have talked about big data, we need to take a look to a city model called Smart City. A smart city is defined by the METI as a geographical area in which technologies, logistics, and energy production merge to create benefits for citizens in terms of well-being, inclusion, participation, environmental quality, and intelligent development. The smart city concept does not refer to the capacity of the city to be smart by itself. It mostly refers to the superior capacity to interact with technology, something similar to our so-called smartphones. In addition, Smart City is so far the most compatible urban model due to the technology integration capacity that offers. This does not mean that Smart City represents the best urban model. Let's analyze a fictional situation to illustrate better the relation between Smart City and Big Data. Let me introduce you to John. He's a young student, 24-year-old, and he is visiting the hospital for a medical checkup with his doctor. All his medical records and health records, these last ones coming from his smartphone, correspond to an overall good health situation. Now let's meet Charles. He is 37 and he is a diabetic. This morning he was feeling a little too tired, so he decided to go to the hospital for a medical checkup. Last but not least, we have Robert. He is 60 years old and his smartphone sent him an alert this morning regarding his heart rate, so he is on a rush to get to the hospital. In this example, big data gathers the information of the three of them, and according to the health situation and the emergency of it, is capable of making a decision on the information that it will provide to each one of them, the route that it will suggest to go from home to the hospital, which is the best option, at what time should they visit the hospital, and even streamline the traffic or decide where they should park their vehicles, obviously giving the closest parking spot to the individual considered the most in need. In the end, for this example, Robert will end up parking really close to the ER door. Charles will probably get a spot real close to the hospital, and John will get a suggestion to park 1 or 2 blocks away from the hospital. Therefore, we can imagine the way of living inside a smart city that integrates big data and is capable of reaching this kind of automation. As wonderful as it sounds, we need to remember that no system is perfect. This interaction between smart city and big data brings in some challenges. Some of the most important challenges are, for example, under what conditions and which life is more important than the other. This involves a huge deal of an ethical issue. Then, what about the urban infrastructure required, the cost of it, and what happens when we let technology take control? What about the big scale integration? Will it work? How do we get it to be efficient? And one of the most critical points of it, what happens with the people that is not included in the technological life? This brings us to the technological exclusion of a part of the bottom line comes when we talk about security and management of the information. The management of the big data information dimensions is dangerous. Despite being designed to develop better spaces for society, it could end up delimiting the options and leaving out a good part of the population. In the end, we have a huge amount of data that we can use to improve social dynamics. However, the rules are fundamental. We must be clear about the type of security with which data is handled, the limits that we will establish for its application, and methods of analysis. If we fail to determine the appropriate rules, there will be a very strong ethical problem where freedom and the human rights of the population involved will potentially be the most affected. Thank you very much for your attention. If there is any comment or question regarding this presentation, please feel free to contact the authors.